there is a really important part of goal setting and being disciplined that I think is important for the journey. And I think that really is going from a place where you have goals, like you were talking about when you're in high school and when you're in grade school, where you're being told that these are your goals and you don't understand why. So you're sort of acting unconsciously towards these goals. You're like, I need to get A's. I don't really feel like I care, but I'm being forced to do them. So then you kind of lose the plot in college and a little bit after, or I felt like I did, where I was like, okay, I don't want anyone to tell me any goals. I don't want to have any goals. I kind of want to free flow because it doesn't feel like anything feels authentic. And then you sort of have to come around to another place, the next evolution, where you're understanding, like you said, and you're creating goals based on things that you actually want in your life and things that actually matter to you. So you're making goals based on like a true heartfelt reason that you want to achieve them rather than what society thinks or rather than what your job thinks or what your teacher thinks or what your professor thinks. So the process where I was brought around to making goals and being super disciplined was huge, hugely transformational for me. And that meant discipline for me meant not drinking and spending my time on activities that will further my career, that will further my spiritual development, that will further my relational development. And that also meant doing things like meditation. So having a discipline around meditation so that I could make that an integrated part of my practice. It could have also meant becoming vegan. I had to be disciplined about being vegan or just being disciplined about vegetarian for the years that I was before it. And those led to really impactful things in my life. I wasn't willy-nilly about them. I was pretty strict about them, but it felt really good and it felt really, really aligned because I understood why those were my goals. For drinking, I wanted a different life. I wanted to change my life in a way that felt like I was living more authentically and more in my body. For being vegetarian, there are social and cultural reasons I felt really aligned to. For meditation, I really wanted to get a hold of my mental health. So, what seems to be really strict things by basis of culture and society, to not have meat, to not have bacon, to not go out with your friends, to spend time alone, meditation feels really weird. But for me, having those be a part of my life, understanding the end goal, and then understanding that the discipline of those things was going to help me get there was really, really, really important.
Yeah, it's like those goals by proxy that are really about kind of your own personal journey that can enhance the more specific goal, like the
Yes.
veganism, like the not drinking. It's like that is really supporting what you want ultimately, right? But it also helps to strengthen the muscle of I'm going to commit to this thing and I am going to create a really healthy habit, but more so a lifestyle. And so you prove to yourself and build more confidence around that, which I think is so, so important. And it also made me think about like the fact that so many of my goals in the past have not been my own. And you briefly touched on that, where it's like, are these
Yes.
goals my own?
Yes,
It's like
dude.
in the world in which we live in now, we're seeing so much on social media, so much on the news, so
Oh
much
my
here, so much
gosh.
there. And so you kind of sponge up these aspects of people's lives that you want and you strive to have. And it's like, okay, it's like,
Yes.
and so I have to be really discerning about, and I've been tapping into this lately on my social media hiatus, because I'm like, I automatically was like, all right, Linz, what are your goals for this? What are you going to have at the end of this hiatus? And it was like, like, why? Why do I want that or need that? And it really felt like because I wanted to show people what this produced for me. And it
Mhm.
really wasn't about what I wanted to produce for myself. So I kind of had to check myself. So I think it really always is about checking in with the, like you said, the why behind the goal. Is it yours?
Yes, I think that's a huge question for our audience. Is this my goal or someone else's? Is this my goal or someone else's? I remember for so long I was like, I want to run a marathon. And then one year was like, I don't give a fuck about marathons. I don't fucking want to do that. And that's literally mad respect and love to people that have run marathons. I've run a bunch of halves, like mad respect. But I was like, damn, that wasn't my goal. And it felt like a stereotypical idea of a goal you see places. Like I was definitely
Yes.
influenced by the idea of goals. And for so many people, the the standard goal felt like, from what my perception is, was a marathon. And so I would say that I'd be like, oh, I want to run a marathon. I want a marathon. And then I'm like, what? I don't give a fuck about marathons. And I think when we're talking about, is this my goal or someone else's, a good way to kind of check in with that is, potentially write that goal down, maybe journal about it. Like, how is this goal going to make me feel? How will my life be different if I achieve this goal? What does this goal mean for me? Are some great questions you can think about when journaling. And I think also too, checking in with your community, with your partner, with your friends, with your family, like, what do you think about this goal for me? Obviously, we don't want to be too influenced by our family's opinions, by anyone else's opinions but our own, but it could be interesting to see how they react and if it feels like a natural evolution or progression as a goal for you. And thinking from a relational perspective, it is a good idea maybe to check in with your family and friends or your closest loved ones and goal set with them, in the sense of goal setting based on either your relationship or things that maybe they're seeing. And this is kind of TBM shadow work in you that you could potentially make as goals that you may not see yourself. Because I think a lot of our goals are really ego based. They're really like, how is this going to make me look to everyone else? What does this mean about me? Does this mean I'm good? Does this mean I'm achieving? Does this mean I'm a productive member of society? And they're actually not based on anything that would make an impact on our life that we would feel on a daily basis.
Yeah, I really love that point. I think Sean and I make goals at the beginning of every year, and I'm curious to look back on last year's and see what the ego to soul ratio is on them. But it was cool to share, because you're right. Like, there is something that someone that knows you so well brings to that reflection. Like, I remember distinctly him being like, oh, I really love that for you. And I hadn't really shared that goal before. And I was like, and it almost rang true even more. I was like, yeah, that is actually, it wasn't at the top of my list, but it was like, actually that one is the one that spoke to my heart, even though it wasn't going to be the one that I could like show people and really like, parade around. So yeah, I think that's such a good point.
Thank you so much for tuning in to Morning Microdose by Almost 30.
We hope you enjoyed waking up.
As always, we encourage you to take what resonates and leave the rest. If you enjoyed this trip, tune into the full episode on the Almost 30 podcast. All episode information can be found in the show notes.
Make sure to subscribe, and if this becomes a part of your morning routine, be sure to share it with a friend. We have new inspiring doses Monday through Friday. Follow us on Instagram at Morning Microdose, and follow Almost 30 at Almost 30 Podcast.
Thanks for listening. We'll see you in the vortex.